Ukraine's Western allies threaten Russia with new sanctions over ceasefire refusal. Western allies of Ukraine, including the United States, have issued warnings of imposing further sanctions on Russia if Moscow continues to reject the 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine proposed by the United States. On Thursday, U.S. President Donald Trump intensified his calls for an unconditional ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine, threatening additional sanctions from both the U.S. and its partners. This proposal, however, has been repeatedly dismissed by Moscow. A meeting is scheduled for Saturday morning in Kiev, where British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron, Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk, and Germany's new Chancellor Friedrich Merz are set to meet Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. According to a statement from Starmer's office on Friday night, these nations plan to increase pressure on Russia's military operations until Moscow agrees to a ceasefire. President Trump has prioritized ending the war in Ukraine, dedicating significant effort to persuading Russian President Vladimir Putin to cooperate. Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, has traveled to Russia 4 times to hold discussions with Putin. Additionally, there have been multiple high-level meetings between U.S. and Russian officials since Trump resumed office in January. Despite offering unprecedented concessions to Russia, the Trump administration has so far failed to secure Russia's agreement to the proposed limited ceasefire, which was designed to serve as a first step towards a permanent resolution to the conflict. Trump now appears to be running out of patience with Putin's reluctance to move forward. His latest actions signal a shift in the U.S. approach to the conflict, one that had previously shown moments of understanding toward the Kremlin's position. U.S. and European allies increased pressure on Russia amid ceasefire talks recently. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio issued a stern warning that the United States might abandon negotiations if meaningful progress was not achieved. However, rather than stepping away, the U.S. is now taking the lead among Ukraine's Western allies to intensify pressure on Russia. European leaders endorsed Trump's ceasefire proposal. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hinted on Friday that details of a proposed ceasefire could be unveiled as early as Saturday. He noted that leaders from the so-called Coalition of the Willing, a bloc of Western nations committed to defending Ukraine against Russian aggression, are set to convene in Kiev on Saturday. U.S. President Donald Trump discussed the ceasefire plan and the potential for additional sanctions with Zelensky and several European leaders on Thursday. French President Emmanuel Macron revealed that he had multiple conversations with Trump on Thursday, praising the U.S. leader's firm stance in advocating for an unconditional 30-day ceasefire. "We must all pursue this objective with urgency, without any pretense or stalling tactics. Ukraine has already shown its support for such a ceasefire nearly 2 months ago. Now, I expect Russia to follow suit," Macron stated on X. He further warned that if Russia does not accept the proposal, France is prepared to respond decisively, in full solidarity with our European partners and in close coordination with the United States. On Friday, Macron appeared alongside Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk to confirm that a hybrid meeting, partly virtual and partly in person, would take place in Kiev on Saturday to discuss the situation further. On Thursday, U.S. President Donald Trump held discussions with leaders from the 10 northern European countries that comprise the Joint Expeditionary Force, JEF, a security alliance. Leaders from the United Kingdom, Denmark, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden and Finland spoke with both Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky during a dinner at a summit in Oslo, as confirmed by several participating governments. Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson stated on X, "Our message to both presidents was that we are committed to achieving a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. We also expressed our full support for the 30-day ceasefire proposal and reaffirmed Europe's and the U.S.'s dedication to the peace process." European allies stand firm amid Russian displays of power while Russian President Vladimir Putin hosted pro-Kremlin leaders, including Chinese President Xi Jinping, during a grand military parade in Moscow on Friday. Ukraine's European allies demonstrated their backing for Kiev by sending high-ranking delegations to Ukraine. In the western Ukrainian city of Lviv, dozens of foreign delegations gathered to show their support for the ceasefire initiative and the creation of a special tribunal to investigate acts of aggression against Ukraine. Attendees included the EU's foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas, UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy, Germany's newly appointed Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul, French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot, and numerous senior diplomats from other European nations. These efforts underscored a unified European resolve to advance the peace process and hold aggressors accountable.